So we're doing a video game controllers tier list, and we talked about putting like an F tier on it. Um, I decided not to because I'm pretty sure every controller works. I don't know if they work well, but they still work. And yeah, I'm just curious because it's something that I've never really thought of doing, even though I use controllers all the time for everything almost. Well, not all the time, but excuse me. Okay, this is a hard one to start with. The Wii U gamepad. I like the Wii U gamepad. Wait, the Wii U gamepad is actually like S tier. The Wii U might have sucked, but being able to play a Zelda game and switch your items on the fly while you're playing without having to like switch screens or any of that, fantastic. It has a stylus built into it, is great. And you could switch between the Wii U or like the TV view and the tablet gamepad view on the controller. Nintendo Xbox in last place. Yeah, makes sense. The Wii U Pro controller is pretty like generic. I don't really have anything to say good or bad about it. It's just kind of there. Good alternative to having to use the Wii U gamepad if you don't want to, but I actually found the gamepad to be extremely more useful. The Switch controllers, when they're on a little handheld thing, I don't know, Joy-Cons are kind of just mid. Okay, Joy-Cons by themselves, sideways, suck. I have like medium-sized hands, and my hands still like cramp using it. So it's actually awful. Um, oh yeah, the GameCube controller is godly. Uh, Switch Pro controller, I actually think is I'm gonna put it in A. Kind of copies like the Xbox kind of design, and it works good, and it's a good alternative to the Joy-Cons. I'm assuming this is Atari. Um, More elegant weapon from a more civilized age, I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't really know what. It's a joystick and one button. Simple yet effective. I don't really know where to put that. I've also never really used it, but I don't know. I would say this is the Sega Master System controller. I think I've also never used this. Um, this is hard. Like there's not much to say of it. Like I'm gonna be honest, I'm not extremely well versed with Sega besides the Dreamcast controller. Um, Relative to other controllers, I would well shit, relative to other controllers, I'd put this in D. Relative to other controllers, actually no, that looks like it'd be comfortable to use too because it's not gonna like kill your hands by like cramping them. I guess unless you're holding the joystick too hard. I don't know. I'd put that in C. Yeah, I think the Sega controller definitely got better because then you got the Sega Genesis, and like that is actually like, I think the Sega Genesis controller is really good. Wait, does that have 3 buttons? No, sorry, I'm thinking of the Sega Saturn. Sorry, this one is high B. The Sega Saturn controller I put here. It has 6 buttons. The D-pad was good. The like I don't know. I played on the Sega Saturn at my grandparents a lot when I was younger, and it was great. My only real like console or not console the Sega console experience is like the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast. This is the one that's gonna make people mad. I think that the Sega Dreamcast controller is actually good. I don't think that it's as okay. I'm putting this just bottom of A tier just because I think it's amazing. I don't think it's as good as the more actually. No, what? Never mind. Changing my ranking. The Saturn controller, good, but not as refined as the Switch Pro controller. Obviously, I don't think the Dreamcast controller was as good as the Saturn controller, but it had these little things that I think they were called VMUs, and I think that stood for like virtual memory unit. And it was this standalone little device. I don't know if I have one handy that I could grab. Basically, I can't remember if it had a battery in it either. But basically, what you did is you stuck the VMUs into your controller, and that acted as your memory card, if I'm not mistaken. But depending on the game you were playing, it would also show you like information about the game, like stats or other stuff. And I'm pretty sure you could even load like specific games just to that thing, which I guess means that the controller isn't really that great, but the VMUs are. But you can't use the VMUs without the controller, I don't think. So, Famicom controller, never really used it. If it's anything like the Nintendo, like NES, I'm just gonna put them all in C tier because they're good. They're not uncomfortable to use. They're simple. Whereas like the Switch controller is down here because it's uncomfortable to use for long periods of time. It's not simple. It's very easy to fumble over buttons because you've got like 7 buttons. What's that? The record button or the home button, analog stick, 4 base buttons, and then a plus button. Yeah, 7. That's ridiculous. The Duke. My god, this controller sucks. The Xbox's first controller, and this thing is just too big. This was back when Microsoft, they, instead of having their buttons arranged like a PlayStation controller, they were like slightly offset. Kind of hard to push. I gotta put this one in B. Like, these two, this one's kind of generic. This one is just not quite there yet. But the OG Xbox, like, it's just too big. The buttons are weird, like weird to push. I don't know, it's just weird, like strange layout. I was not a fan of this one. They did come out with like a revised version of it that I thought was great. I really liked that. Xbox 360 controller. Enough said. Damn straight, I'd actually even put the Xbox One controller up there. They took the Xbox 360 controller and just made it the same but better. Like, I don't know. I use this a lot. This is an Xbox One controller, but like I love the feel of it, the design. Can use it for hours. It's familiar, easy to get familiar with as well. Sony's okay. Here we go. Okay, so the first Sony. I don't know if the original Sony controller was a DualShock, but the original Sony controller goes in S. Wait. I was gonna say goes in S because the Sony controller is great for the PlayStation. The downfall of the PlayStation controller was the analog sticks were too close together. So I don't know. Sometimes if you're using it too long, your thumbs can kind of not feel too hot. Plus the analog sticks for the PS2. So the analog sticks for the Xbox controllers were like concaved. I think I'm using the right words, concaved. But the PS2 analog sticks were convex. So your thumbs didn't like fit into them. They fit on top of them, so they'd slip off really easily. So I actually think like as much as the analog sticks were essential for playing PS2 games, They just were kind of the downfall of the controller. So I would actually I'm gonna put this in A. I still think that the Switch Pro controller is like the king of the A tier. It's just it hasn't like it's not game breaking or game changing or trend breaking, right? Like it's just taking what Xbox has done and making it different. This was something. You know what? Fuck it. This was innovative for the time, I would say. I'm trying to think about when this came out. It would have been like the first controller to have shoulder buttons, wouldn't it? No, besides the SNES controller. Too straight for your liking? Yeah, I think that this was an innovative controller, I think. Because if we go through the A tier, like, this is just Atari controller, simple, perfect, work as for what it needed to. This was like emerging technology that unfortunately failed. This was the kind of the apex of 3 consoles worth or 4 consoles worth, 3 consoles worth of development. This is a copy, but for a system that previously has had goofy controllers the whole way through. And then this just changed the way that video game controllers looked, I think. Because if you look like the Xbox, the PlayStation controller came first before the Xbox, right? If I'm not mistaken, because Xbox was with the PS2 and the GameCube. I'm putting that there. DualShock 2, like I said, I actually don't find the analog sticks to be an improvement. DualShock 3, I actually think is better than the DualShock 2. It had like pressure sensitive buttons or something like that. I don't remember specifically. I remember there being a crazy amount of marketing about how different the controller was. PS4 controller. PS4 controller. Where do we put the PS4 controller? I think I don't know. You know what? I think it actually just goes in the bottom of A tier. So the PS4 controller feels better than the other ones because the other ones are like they're not round-ish. They're kind of straight line, hard lines. I found the PS4 controller fits better in your hand. Other than that, everything feels the same, but it has a touchpad. Now, the touchpad on the PS4 controller is the most criminally underrated button or underused button on that thing. Most games just treat it as like a extra button. The only game I think, or one of the games that I remember seeing that actually utilized it properly was Killzone Shadowfall, because you could actually like make swipe motions and stuff on it. Other than that, most games don't even utilize it properly, and it's a shame. I think it was a waste for them to not use it. I don't know what that is. Hold on. As long as this doesn't get captured. Is this another Dreamcast controller? I forgot about the Sega Saturn controller that had an analog stick on it. Oh my god. No, I actually don't. Oh, here we go. Oh. So that is the... No, go back. The Bandai Apple Pippin. I have never even heard of it. Okay, let's take a look at this though. It looks like Dreamcast controller. It looks like it has a center button, but then it looks like it has a... Can't tell if it's a D-pad. No, it's definitely like a D-pad or something. Some kind of like round 8-way button. That doesn't look uncomfortable to hold. Definitely does not look fun. I'm sorry, I gotta put it here. I don't know enough about it. NES controller, same deal like I explained. The Super Nintendo controller, Super Famicom, sorry. So, we want to talk about innovative. The Super Nintendo and Super Famicom controllers were like, they were it. Right, because they did everything that these guys did, but then they added 2 extra face buttons and the 2 shoulder buttons. Now, I don't know where to put these. I almost want to put them... You know what? Shit. Dare I say it? I'm putting this in A. And this is 100% personal preference. I think the Super Famicom controller looks cooler because the buttons are colored instead of just being purple and lilac or gray or whatever. That's just me. But I think that these were the best controllers that really... See, if I'm putting this not in S, it should be here. I think it just goes in S. They're both the same controller, essentially. It's just the color's different. The N64 controller is actual garbage. Look, I have one right here. You have an analog stick that just fails because it grinds itself into dust. You have buttons. I actually like the buttons. But on top of that, you have the D-pad in such a weird place. And you have the Z button, which, okay, don't get me wrong, the Z button, great. The C buttons, A, B, great. Shoulder buttons, fine. The fact that you hold this so weird, not fine. Like, how do you even hold... How do you hold it? Not to mention all the shooters that came out for the Nintendo 64. I don't know how people played them. I know you could, like, for GoldenEye, plug in 2 controllers and use it like a twin stick shooter, which... Or not twin stick, like a dual analog stick, which, to me, that'd be, like, the only way to play them. But I think that a Nintendo 64 controller is actually awful. It is 100% nostalgic, but it is not good. Missing link between SNES and GameCube. Perfect way to put it. Also, sorry, I left the gamepad in S, high S. I'm actually gonna move the gamepad middle. I think it does more than the Super Nintendo controllers. Obviously, where it's at technologically, I think was extremely advanced for its time. But the Super Nintendo controller is iconic. It is solid. Like there's nothing that really it doesn't need to be upgraded. There's nothing wrong with it. I would say the same with like any of these, really. Like the Xbox controllers are great, but the GameCube controller really should be in a class of its own, I think. The GameCube controller is perfect. Oh, I don't have mine. Or do I? No, that's PS4. You have the C stick instead of the C buttons. You have a much nicer button configuration and layout. You have an analog stick that doesn't destroy itself unless you have like one of the original GameCube analog sticks, in which case it kind of does, but nowhere near as bad as the Nintendo 64. The D-pad's great. They last forever. I still have a GameCube controller that I think we had from like the original GameCube that we had. Um, Now the Wii U or the Wii and the Nunchuck, I actually think are kind of bad. Motion controls are not good. I'm not gonna say much more about it. Like with the Nunchuck, at least you were not like you had something to move around your character, whichever, easily, but no. Um, I think the Wii U or the Wii Pro controller better. I don't know what kind of I never had one of these, so I don't know what kind of like compatibility it had with like first party Wii games or if it was mainly just used for playing like retro games. Um, but yeah, there it is, I guess. The Switch standalone Joy-Con really is just the worst controller. I think Nintendo peaked at the GameCube and then Nintendo's always done gimmicky stuff, right? Like you look like, I mean, the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo controller, perfect, right? And then the N64, they're like, let's try something. Didn't quite work. GameCube, they nailed it. And then they were like, all right, GameCube was a hit. Let's go for the gimmick again with motion controls. They've always been like the trailblazer for stuff, I think, Nintendo. But like, nah. And the same with the Wii U, like the touchscreen controls on a home console. I think it was brilliant. I just think that they could have named the console differently, and that would have probably helped what people thought of it instead of thinking it was an addition to the Wii. And then the Joy, like the Switch, I understand where they were going with the Switch, but they could have done better with the Joy Cons, I think. I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna get out of here. Go get something to eat for lunch. Relax, get some videos and stuff up. So, do we have any lunch streaming we can rate? No, because I forgot it's a Monday and all my friends are working. Or just not streaming. Okay, well. Yeah, I will be back tomorrow. We're gonna play more of that. We'll probably do another tier list. I don't know of what though. I'm gonna have some videos up on YouTube pretty soon of Breath of the Wild, some more shorts and all that stuff. So look forward to those. But until then, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night or morning or afternoon wherever you are, and I will see you later. Don't die. Take care.